Hi, everyone. Diana, Economy Director of Full-Time MBA Admissions at Michigan Ross, and I'm also an alum of the MBA program and very excited to have all of you here today. I'm here with my colleague, Taya. You want to introduce yourself, Taya?
Yeah, good morning or good evening, everyone. My name is Taya, Senior Associate Director of Admissions, and I've been on the team quite a while. So excited to share some of the tips we have from reading applications over the years, and excited to tell you more about the application this year.
So this is a new event that we're doing, that we're trying. It is only 30 minutes long. We've heard you. We know how busy you are. We know how zoomed out you are. We know that you just want to get to the heart of the matter and the details that are going to help you strengthen your application. And so we're going to do just that. So the way this session will work is Taya and I are going to share a few tips for 30 minutes. We'll go back and forth, give some different perspective. And what we're going to do, because it's only 30 minutes, is we're going to suggest that you join one of our office hours sessions to get your questions answered. So our office hours sessions right now are every other week, and starting in July, they'll be every week. And what happens is you can drop into office hours at any point during the time that they're offered. You'll be placed into a breakout room with an admissions officer, and you can get your questions answered. So that's a really good way to be in somewhat of a small group, to be able to hear what others are asking, but also to get your questions answered. So encourage you to ask any questions that may come up from this presentation in one of our office hour sessions. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started.
So I'm going to kick things off just going over the test. The topic of this was about, this tip session was about waivers, but I want to make sure you know what all of your test options are. So at Ross, we accept the GMAT or the GRE. We also accept a few exams like the LSAT or the MCAT. And we also accept for English proficiency, we accept the TOEFL, IELTS, or PTE. With the TOEFL, you do not need to take one of those exams if you went to your undergraduate institution was taught in English. So you have the option of, with the GMAT or GRE, you have the option of taking any one of those. We evaluate them equally. It's up to what you want to do. And for either the GMAT GRE or the TOEFL IELTS PTE or both, you can apply for a test waiver. So we started this process last year. We recognized as part of COVID, we started honestly reading a lot of essays and getting some emails from people who were having a lot of challenges in taking the test, both because of a lot of personal challenges that people had or are continuing to have really during the pandemic. But also because of things like internet access. Even if you had the option to take it online, a lot of people were struggling with connectivity, being disconnected during the test, and that resulting in a lot of anxiety, or having issues where they couldn't take the exam in a quiet place and really do their best. So we started doing the test waiver in the fall last year. We are continuing that through the entire application cycle next year. Just to give you a little bit of context, we are expecting about 10 to 15% of our class this year to come in with a test waiver. So it is, I would say the majority of students that are in the class are either took the GMAT or GRE, but we have a number of students that are taking a test waiver as well. And I'm going to get into a few of the tips around that. So I guess I kind of answered this one in the first one, but we don't have a preference in the test that you take. We evaluate the GMAT and the GRE equally. It is completely up to you which one you want to take. And I know a number of students take a practice exam for both, or some end up taking both exams. And we will use whichever one you do best on. So that, like I said, that's most often used for the GMAT GRE, but I suppose if you wanted to think about that in terms of like taking the TOEFL or IELTS, we would do it in that case as well. So it's completely up to you, and we have no preference between the exams. The biggest question that we get around the test waiver, and I've seen this on a number of events even that I've done this week, is should I apply for it? You have this, but should I do it? And I think it's really important to think about your own personal situation. Do you have access to take the test? Do you have challenges that you're going to be facing in order to take it? You have to think about your personal situation. If you think you are able to take the test and do the best you can on the test, then by all means, go ahead and take it. We encourage you to do that. But if you think you're going to have challenges, or you think that you would able to be eligible for a waiver, then you can certainly consider taking the waiver. And so that's the second part that I would say is, in addition to first step, think about your own conditions and your own situation about if you should take the waiver, if you're going to be able to take the GMAT or GRE or the TOEFL in your current conditions. But the next step is, it's not just about if you, if you can't take the test. We do need to see that you have the quantitative skills or the analytic skills so that we're confident you'll be able to be successful in the classroom at Ross. So you need to think about your own background. I'm going to get into in another slide what kinds of things people submit, but you want to think about, do I have enough convincing evidence in my background in some way to be able to be approved for a test waiver, so that I know that I'm setting myself up for success and there is something that the admissions committee will see to be confident that I'll be successful in the classroom. So that's something you really want to think about. I will say, like, after we went through a season of reading waiver applications, one of the most common mistakes, not really a mistake, but one of the common things that I saw was people in their test waiver application would share a lot of really heartbreaking stories or personal stories about why they couldn't take the test, but they didn't tell us why we should waive it. They failed to leave out, okay, I took all of these courses in undergrad, or I actually have had a lot of quantitative work experience. And so while my heart really went out to those that had a situation why they weren't able to take the test, I still need to see that evidence of why, of your quantitative skills. And so that's something I would really think about if you're planning on applying for a test waiver, is making sure that you're demonstrating that. The next thing is, what should I submit? So that goes hand in hand with what I was just saying. We have a number of different resources on the website listed on the when you go to the website for the test waiver. So you'll want to take a look at those, but I'd say the most common things that people submit to give us evidence that you have these quantitative skills I mentioned. There are your undergraduate transcripts. So we have a lot of people who have engineering backgrounds, who might be have accounting backgrounds. And that's a lot of quantitative coursework, and you did well in those courses. That is a great example of something you can submit. Number of people have a CPA or a CFA, or in India, I know the common thing is the CA. So thinking about if you have, that's another common way. A number of people have a graduate degree in a quantitative or analytic field. So just looking at describing your work experience, or giving us examples of how you have these quantitative or analytic experiences is really we have suggestions, but you make the decisions on what you actually are going to be submitting. As far as the English side of that, if you are thinking about applying for the English proficiency waiver, it's going to be things like a degree in English. I know there's a number of, we had some international students this past year who their entire degree was in English. So that is pretty good evidence that you have strong English proficiency. There's people who have worked in the United States for several years, or worked in an English-speaking country for several years. So that also is strong evidence that helps us be confident in being able to give you an approval. Did you have anything else to add, Diana?
No, I think you've covered it, Taya.
Okay. So the last part is, how will I be evaluated? So this is the other comment. First I hear, what should I apply? And then this is the next question is, okay, if I do get a waiver, how am I evaluated when you're evaluating a number of other people who did take the test? And how do you balance these two things? The first thing I would say is, so the test gives us an additional data point. It gives us more confidence. If you submit a test, it gives us more confidence and a better understanding of your quantitative skills or your English proficiency skills, your communication skills. So it gives us a little bit more information. So if you if you take the test and you have a strong score, it certainly gives us more confidence. It's another data point for us to be using. However, if you were approved for a waiver, we approved it because we were pretty confident that you have those quantitative skills, you have those English proficiency skills. So I would say it's not a positive or a negative. It's more just the test gives us an additional data point when we're understanding your whole skill set. The other thing to think about is we do still award scholarships to those that are approved for a waiver. So it doesn't disqualify you from being considered for a scholarship if you apply for a waiver. So we really are honest about making sure, like when we started this waiver, we truly wanted it to be available for everyone that needed it, and you are still qualified for everybody, but regardless for the scholarships of if you took the test or not. And I think I'll turn it over to Diana to talk about essays.
Great, thanks, Taya. And for those of you wondering, the waiver process will open when our application opens next month. Taya, I have to tell you, on that last slide where we saw all of the class together, it brought back such good memories. So for those of you wondering, we're moving towards a more in-person residential fall this fall. And so fingers crossed that everybody stays healthy and well, and that things continue to trend in the right direction, and we can all be together in all these wonderful pictures of the building that you're seeing. But another big piece of the process is, of course, your essays. And so I want to talk a little bit about our essays and why we've chosen them. So to start with, you've probably noticed that we have a set of short answer essays. You have to choose one prompt from each of the two groups. Right now, you'll see group one, and on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about group two. What I like about these short answer essays is that you have choice as to what you want to tell us, right? We gave you that choice intentionally so, because we've heard from candidates where they've said, gosh, I feel like I didn't get enough of an opportunity to tell my story, or something that makes me unique or differentiated, what makes me tick. And for an MBA program, we're not just hiring you like you would for a job, right? Or admitting people in for just one specific part of who you are. You're bringing your whole self to this experience. You're going to be engaging with this experience really deeply, academically, culturally, socially, career-wise, right? So there are a lot of different parts of who you are. And so you need to think about these short answer essays as an opportunity to help us get to know who you are a little bit better. One of the things you should know about Michigan Ross is that if you learn best by doing, this is the place to be. We have more hands-on learning experiences than any other school. And hands-on learning fundamentally requires you to look at the slide, be out of your comfort zone, right? Have a level of humility. You're going to be challenging yourself. Others are going to be challenging themselves. We need to wrap a supportive community around you and your drive to be better while you're in school, and to help others be better and be the best version of themselves, to really push themselves to learn. Hands-on learning means that you might be doing, for example, your 7-week-long MAT project at the end of your first year, where you're going to be on a consulting-like engagement. You might be working on a project in a function or industry that you've never been a part of, at an organization that's in a country that you've never worked in, and with a group of students, peers, who come from all different backgrounds and from all over the world. So it's really going to force you to think about the ways that you lead, the ways that you engage as a team, and how you perform when you step outside of your comfort zone. We recognize that people might fail, right? When you're learning by doing and trying something new, you might fail, and that's okay. We want to support you through those experiences and build you up. And so, Tay, if you go back to the last slide with group one, I want people to know that I made a difference when I was aware that I was different when. Really think about the things that make you tick. I would really write down some of the things that you're energized by, some of the things that make you distinctive. Those are going to be a good set to choose from when you choose what you want to share with us here. In terms of, the types of examples, like should they be personal, should they be professional? It's up to you. Know that in other parts of the application, we get to know who you are professionally. By that, I mean the resume. By that, I mean the recommendation letter, usually in your interview. So it doesn't mean that you can't share professional examples here. Maybe you want to bring something to life a little bit more than a resume, for example, may allow. But this is also a unique opportunity to share something that might be very personal to you, and that's okay for you to do that. Can you go to the next essay, Taya, the career essay? So we also have a career goal essay, and it specifically asks about your short-term career goals. And the reason that we ask for your short-term career goals is that recruiting happens very, very quickly at Michigan Ross. By that, I mean, it is June. We have students who are starting this fall who won't step foot on Ann Arbor for another few months, and we are already deep into working with them on where they want to start their internship search for next summer. So when we ask you about your short-term career goal, we recognize that things may shift with your long-term career goal once you come into the business school environment and once you learn a little bit more about yourself and the post-MBA options. So it's not that we're not passionate or we don't care about where you're headed long-term. It's just that we recognize it may adjust. And we also recognize that your short-term career goal comes into focus very quickly when you start an MBA program. So the focus here is on your short-term career goal. And what I would tell you is you don't have to put why Ross in your short-term career goal. I think people ask the question around, should I incorporate it? Shouldn't I? It's up to you. We know it's only 200 words long. And so we really are looking for your self-reflection around what you see as your next steps in terms of your career goal, why you believe that to be the case given your experiences. Certainly, if you put something in there about Ross, it's okay, but we are not expecting to see it. So that's a question that comes up from time to time. All right, Taya. What do applicants do in their essays that you like and dislike? So Taya, I'll start and then I'd love to hear your perspective on this as well. I find that when I read an essay where I really feel like I'm hearing the candidate's authentic voice and getting to know a little bit more about who they are, I appreciate that. It gives me an additional lens, additional layer of very complex individuals, right? You all have so much complexity to you and so many different things to share. So I really like the authenticity. In terms of what I like a little bit less is I think that there are essays that tell us what we want to hear, and they're kind of forcing maybe a story in that doesn't really feel like it's well aligned with the rest of their story or their experience or what we're hearing from their recommender, more just a placeholder because I feel like if I don't tell Michigan Ross this, then I'm not going to get picked up. And those candidates become a little more generic to us. It's easy to kind of see through that, and we don't get to know as much about you. Taya, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's those are the basics, Diana, that you shared. I think those cover the main things. I think to provide a little bit more color, I would say it's I've read a lot of essays where people think, okay, Ross is known for collaboration. They're known for they want people who are adaptable and they're known for these things. And they think about those skills and stories they have to demonstrate those skills in the essays. And that it just comes across as inauthentic. And so, you don't want to approach it backwards like that. Think about, I would really start with what you care about the most. What, like maybe ask a few of your friends or family, like when they think of you, what do they think of? And what would they say that you really stands out about you to them? And think about that, and stories that demonstrate those things. When you are sharing more personal examples of things you truly are passionate about and you truly care about, it's easier for us to picture you in the class. We feel like we're getting to know you a little bit better. And I can say, oh, I could really see them running this club or being involved in this element of this experience. And it just, your passions really come through, and that just makes it easier for us to picture you in the class as we're reading your application.
Great, thanks, Taya. Let's go to the next one. So when should you use the optional essay? So The optional essay is there because there are a variety of things where people will say, where should I put this, right? I've got something specific to tell you about, maybe something that may be focused on why you had a significant dip in your grades on a particular semester, or why you didn't choose your direct report supervisor as your recommender. It's okay not to choose your direct report supervisor. This would be an opportunity for you to share who you chose and why, and just gives you an open-ended opportunity to do so. Sometimes people have extenuating circumstances that we see in this essay. What it's not a good place for is for you to share an essay from another school that you really like. We chose our essays for a reason, and you see, as I had articulated, why we picked the essays we did with the choices that you have, why we picked the short-term career goal, for example. So those are the things that are important to us. And it's also important to us to, as consistently as possible, evaluate candidates across the information that we're provided or that we're asking for. So you don't need to submit an essay from another school. You don't need to fill out the optional essay. So for a lot of you, this is actually going to be blank, and that's okay. It may freak you out a little bit to say, I'm probably supposed to put something here. What should I put? You do not need to fill out the optional essay if you don't have anything additional to share with us. So, you have to use your judgment as to what you choose to share, but do feel free to use it if you feel like there's something that needs explanation that the admissions committee would need to know a little bit more about. Taya, you can go to the next one. All right. So what can I do to prepare for my short-term career goals essay? So to start with, in general with essays, where candidates go wrong is that they take a prompt and they start writing immediately against that prompt versus doing a little reflection in advance. So I recommend a few things. First, I would actually think about your current job and what really energizes you about the work that you're doing right now. Is it when you're working with a team? Is it when you're working by yourself? Is it when you're working with spreadsheets to inform a strategy? Is it when you're presenting? When does your blood start flowing where you're like, I'm really excited to work on this? And listen, it may not be a substantial portion of your current job. That could even be why you're looking at an MBA program, because you're looking for a career transition. And Michigan Ross is a great place for that. Over 90% of our students switch either function or industry. But knowing what you're really energized by and maybe thinking about, I wish I had more of an opportunity to do these types of things, that's going to help you because you're going to listen a little bit more when you hear from current students or others that are in a future career that you might be interested in. How often do you get a chance to do these things? What does the day-to-day look like of a consultant or a tech product manager or a brand manager or, an investment banker? So that starting with your own kind of what you get energized by, writing it down and really writing about what's happening around you when that's happening will be helpful. We also have over 200 student ambassadors, and you can filter by their career interests, the clubs that they're in, where they're from. And I think talking to our students to get a feel for their career trajectories and why they chose Ross and how they've prepared for the next step will be helpful as you inform what you see as your short-term career goal. Finally, we have an awesome student podcast called Business Beyond Usual, and they have episodes on things like, what does a career in tech really mean? Or what does the landscape of MBA recruiting look like? Some of their career-focused webinars may help you. Actually, one I forgot that's also very important is at the bottom of our events page, which I actually have up here, because I was going to mention if you have questions to join us at our office hours. But if you go to the bottom of our events page, you will find recorded webinars for probably 10 or 15 different career paths where we spend an entire hour on essentially why Ross for social impact in healthcare and sustainability and tech and consulting, all the different past operations. So do listen to those webinars to help inform your short-term career goal. All right, Taya.
So the last the last topic of this quick tip session is around the application deadline. So we have the 3 deadlines up here. So round 1 is coming up in September, and round 2 in January, round 3 in April. And so Diana mentioned earlier, the waiver application will be live in July at the same time as our application. So our application is going live in July, and you can choose to apply in any of these 3 rounds. And we'll get to a couple of questions that you might have about which round to apply in. So one of the questions I hear a lot is, is there an advantage to applying in round 1 or round 2? Which round should I apply in? And the answer truly is you should apply when you're most ready. I assume if you're on this event right now, you're probably not thinking about round 3. That's why it usually comes down to round 1 or round 2. But your chances of getting admitted, of getting scholarship are very similar if you apply in round 1 or round 2. Round 3 can vary depending on the year. So that's something you want to think about if you're considering round 3. But your chances are very similar. So make sure you're applying when your application is strongest. If you think that, if you have a big project that you're about to finish, or you have, maybe you think you are planning on taking the test and you're retaking it and you think you can get a stronger score. If there's things that you think you can do in October through December, then go ahead and wait in round 2. It's not going to hurt you to wait until round 2 if you think that your application will be stronger by waiting those few months. So the summary is apply when it's best for you, when you think your application is strongest. And then, Diana, were you going to answer this question?
I think you hit on it a little bit in terms of like when your application's the strongest, and of course that still stands for international students. But from a visa perspective, we encourage you to probably apply in the first 2 rounds. While there are opportunities, if we can do it quickly in round 3, right, to get you in and to get your visa processed, you never know, right? There's been all these changes, especially over the past year or 2 with COVID, with regard to the amount of time it takes to get the visa. So we'd love to make sure you get in and get moving, because we don't start the visa processing until after you pay your deposit. So it's not just that you get in, it's you have to get in and commit to Michigan Ross. And then at that point is when we start your visa. So I'd encourage you, if you're an international student, to try to apply in round 1 or round 2.
All right.
And with that, yeah, like I think I've shared most of these links, Taya. So I think we've got our student ambassadors. I put our event link up there. I just put our admissions blog out there, and encourage you to listen to our Business Beyond Usual podcast. And Taya, with that, I think our timing with our 30-minute app tips worked out really well.
Yeah, we timed that pretty perfectly. It worked out well.
So for all of you out there who are looking to apply, we can't wait to get to know you more. We're excited. You'll see our application will go live. We'll make sure we announce it here in July as it hits the ground. Do come to our office hours and get any questions answered about what we've talked about today, or anything else that might be top of mind for you. We're going to be doing a lot of different events over the next few months, some that are called Ask Me Anything, where those are just our students. There's no admissions officers present, so you can just ask our students your questions. We have one of those coming up this week. We have events that are called admissions chats that will be with admissions officers plus our students. So that's another opportunity to learn a little bit more from both our admissions team as well as our students. And of course, we'll be at different events along the way. So we hope to see you at those. We look forward to getting to know you more, and thanks for joining us today.